You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 243 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me in the PTUK studios this week, as always, the man pushing all the right buttons, I hope, it's Matt Smith.
And today some of the wrong ones as well, but there we are, it's all part of the fun.
Are you okay, Matt?
Yeah. Just to lie down in a darkened room, I'll be fine.
How's the process of this week?
No, the tower itself is fine. We're having a few broadband issues here. It's 13% currently.
Oh, good.
We're having a few broadband issues here at PTUK studios, but we'll survive, I'm sure.
Excellent.
Yes, excellent.
So joining us as well this week, as always, is someone who's had an incredibly busy but very, very good day indeed, and he's going to tell us a little bit about it quickly. So welcome, Neville Bounds.
Good evening, everybody. It's, Nev here, and it's been quite a day, let me tell you. Yes, we went down to Wiltshire with Captain Nick, and I took the PTUK outside broadcast unit with me in the back of my car because we were interviewing Sir Richard Johns, and what a great day it was. And we'll be talking about that later on in the show because we've got some serious content to share with you later on, and I'm really pleased that it's one of those interviews, and he's such a fantastic gentleman. He gave so much, so I'm really looking forward to sharing that with everybody as soon as we can.
Yeah, it's safe to say, Nev, that it definitely sounds like you had an incredibly good day across there. But I will say, Nev, it's been really, really foggy here in the east part of East Anglia here in the UK. I'm guessing you had a bit better weather your way for the drive?
No, actually, it was definitely Cat 3 weather, I would say. And as you drive down to where Sir Richard's house is, it's about 10 miles south of Stonehenge, and of course you go across those big army ranges, and it says, beware tanks and this sort of stuff. But I'm sort of making sure that there's not stuff
watching out
across the road or being shot at.
I can say watching out for low flying shells is always the way forward, isn't it? You certainly don't want to get hit by one of them.
No, exactly. But no, it was a great day today. So couldn't ask for anything more. And Captain Nick has got some nice photos as well, as you'd expect. And really delighted with.
We're looking forward to that.
We are, looking forward to seeing the end result, Nev. Can't wait.
Yeah. On the subject of photos as well, just want to give a quick mention to Jonathan Warner. Jonathan's sent us in some photos into the PTUK offices this week. I am going to get those printed out and get those behind us here on the PTUK studio wall. And I had a quick look through some of the photos that Mr. Warner sent us, and there's some incredible shots there. I'm really looking forward to getting those printed out on some fancy photo paper for everyone to see. So thanks for that, Jonathan. Well done. And don't forget, if you want to send us in a photo, one of your aviation-themed photos, to go on the wall behind us here in the studio, just send us. You can send us either by post, or you can send us a picture through to our email address. Details at the end of the show, and we can print that out and put on the wall behind us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the intention is to fill this wall behind us with lots of aviation-related
Saves us
photographs.
painting. Saves us
money
on painting.
Painting. No.
So we're going to welcome everyone who has joined us this evening in the live YouTube chat room. It is the 16th of November, just coming up to 26 minutes past 7 in the evening here in the UK.
Yep. We're a little bit late.
But welcome to Mashers. Mashers in the chat room. Evan Shue. We've got Andreas Norden. Auntie Liz is in the chat room. Jenny in Rome. Hello to you, Jenny. And we have got, just scrolling up the list here, Dave Abbey. Hello to you, Dave. It must be late or early where Dave is. We have
Dave Abbey's in New York.
Oh, that is, yes. No, it's early. Actually,
yeah, so it's afternoon, isn't it?
Where they have some snow.
Yeah. Tanya W as well in the chat room. I say Lane Street? Yeah, I did say Lane, didn't I? Yeah. And our main man, Micah, as well, is in the chat room. He's wielding the blue spanner of death.
Of course, yes.
Andrew Wilson, hello to you, Andy. Hope you're well. Jeff Braithwaite is in the chat room. Just scrolling up. Hope I haven't missed anyone, but welcome to everyone who's joined us for tonight's live show. So we've got loads of stuff to get through in this week's show, loads of news stories from the week. We've also got a really great, cracking piece of feedback from Evan Shue.
Tanya is also in New York as well.
Apparently. Oh, Tanya's in New York. And we've got the piece from Evan Shue, which features Matthew Bunting frame and him in the SR-22.
Andreas.
Oh, yes, I did say.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yes,
sorry.
I
wasn't listening. Sorry.
That's right, Matt. He's been stressed, bless him. We've also got some military news, and we've also got some audio as well that Nev done with Tony S as well, coming up later on the show.
Nev done, honestly.
Oh, Nev did. Done. Oh, blimey. Anyway, before I say something silly, nasty to Matt, we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
I certainly am.
And if you're ready, Nev.
I'm done.
Let's go.
And he pressed the wrong button. Brilliant. Lovely.
Oh.
Let's do that
Well
again,
done.
shall we?
So, kicking off this week's first news story then, this one is on the news18.com website. And we've always talking on the show about luggage being thrown around airports, the tarmacs and stuff, and being thrown and crushed and run over and, stuff like that on the show. The stuff that really makes us passengers happy. But this story has got a different kind of twist, but still involving luggage. So the headline is, airline arrives with passengers in Singapore, but leaves their luggage behind in England.
Wow.
Yeah. So, the story then. So, tasteless food, turbulence, crying babies, potential drunk and racist co-passengers. Who really wants another bottle of wine? Apart from the fact that it's the fastest way to get somewhere, flight travel doesn't really have a lot going for it. There's also the fear of lost baggage, a fear that was perfectly and horribly exemplified in a recent incident in a flight from England to Singapore. A Norwegian aircraft flying from Gatwick in the UK here to Singapore was to depart just before midnight on Monday this week, but the 787 aircraft was heavy with fuel for the 12-hour-long journey. Gatwick Airport has two runways, the main one and a shorter standby runway, but the main runway was being temporarily closed between 10:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. for maintenance work. Fair enough. Since the plane was required to reduce weight so as to comply with present preset performance limits, its captain ordered the bags of reportedly 70 passengers to be removed from the hold.
Wow.
Oh dear. The Independent reported that Sophie Webb, who was flying to Singapore to take up a new job, claimed that at the end of the long-haul flight she waited at the baggage carousel for quite some time before being informed of a list of 70 or more names whose luggage had been left behind. Webb then completed a property irregularity report before leaving the airport, and she was quoted saying that she'd rang the help desk in Singapore but got no answer. She had to buy new clothes as she had nothing to wear, and when her mother back in the UK got through to Norwegian, she was told that the bag would arrive within 5 days. Compounding the inconvenience, Webb was then told to claim any expenses from her travel insurance for any expenses not the airlines. Under the Regulatory Montreal Convention, an airline, in this case Norwegian, is not liable for delayed baggage if it can prove it took all measures that it could reasonably required to obviously not have the issue. But wait, there's more. Gatwick Airport told the Independent that when ground staff were informed of the late departure to Singapore, they arranged for the airport's main runway to remain open to accommodate the takeoff. Had this been known earlier, the baggage would have stayed on board. Yes, not great, I think, if you're travelling that far a distance, to not have your luggage arrive when you get there. I mean, it's not so bad if you're travelling from here to Spain, where the flight is quite short, and there's about 1 million flights travelling to Spain every day, where the luggage could be ferried across to you. But obviously, it's a bit of a further stretch to go from here to Singapore.
Yeah, I mean, things do go wrong, don't they? But it does seem a very odd situation to find themselves in, where they've literally got no luggage that got on. Surely somebody must have known that that some luggage was missing.
well, they did know it was missing. They just didn't inform the passengers.
Right.
I'm fairly confident if you were a passenger on this aircraft and before you took off, they came on board the aircraft and said, "Oh, by the way, 70 of you lot will not have cases when you get to Singapore." There would have probably been a bit of a
riot.
Right. Yeah. What do you reckon, Nev?
These things happen, don't they? But some airlines try to help out. And many years ago, I think it was in the late 80s, my boss and I were traveling to Madrid and his luggage got missed off the aircraft. But Iberia helped him out with providing some extremely briefs and a t-shirt for him to wear. And because he was fairly straight-laced kind of fella, none of this left
not appropriate
imagination at all. So yes, he'd been better off just wearing the same clothes he turned up in.
Yeah, which is, I dare say, what he ended up doing.
Luggage, mishandling happens all the time, and especially if there's problems with loading, or there's problems with temperature or whatever it is on takeoff, so they've got to leave stuff behind. So yes.
So moving on to the next story, and Matt, this for you is obviously, as always, a Ryanair story, but it's a I don't know. Is this a tech one? Would you call this a bit of a tech issue?
I don't know. We'll read it. I haven't read the show notes, Carlos, so I've no idea.
You haven't read the show notes.
So anyway, I do know it's on the Daily Mirror website, and the headline is Ryanair website issues left passengers unable to check in online and risking £55 fees. Ryanair passengers are claiming that they were unable to check in online on the website and on the app on Tuesday. While there is always the option to check in at the airport, you'll have to fork out extra cash, as Ryanair will charge you £55 for the privilege, unless you are a Flexi Plus customer, in which case this service is free. Passengers took to social media to reach out to the airline for help, complaining that they were attempting to access the website, but it was not appearing to work for them. It's currently unclear just how many customers were having the issues in trying to log into the website and were unable to gain access, and it seems that not all users had issues. Replying to one user who took a screenshot of the error message they were receiving, a Ryanair representative on the airline's official Twitter account suggested that they clear their browsers, cookies and caches in a bid to solve the minor web issues. Ryanair only offers a 48-hour window to check in ahead of your flight, unless you have paid to reserve a seat, in which case this window becomes 2 months. Therefore, even if the website is down for a short time, it shortens an already quite tight window, which in turn could be problematic for customers who are potentially cutting it fine and checking in at the last minute online. A spokesperson for Ryanair told the Mirror Online there was no website crash. There was a brief server issue on Tuesday evening, which was quickly resolved. No customers were charged for check-in, as the outage was brief and rectified quickly. Customers who reserve a seat can check in 60 days between 60 days and 2 hours before each booked flight. Customers who do not wish to purchase a reserved seat can check in between 2 days and 2 hours before each booked flight. The news comes a week after Ryanair announced it was closing its website and app for 12 hours for a systems update, but the airline did not waive the airport check-in fee during this time, although the airline did warn affected passengers ahead of time via SMS and email that they would need to check in online before the scheduled system maintenance. It would have been a goodwill gesture on its behalf to bend the rules for those 12 hours. I mean, well, the advice here is not leave it to the last minute, I suppose.
Very true.
It? But,
very true. Yeah.
I mean, most of us are sort of, certainly do it the day before, don't we? So you've got time to talk. I would say though, one of the things that is a bit possibly problematic when you do get an issue like this with Ryanair is that it's notoriously difficult to get hold of someone on the end of the phone to do your online check-in. So if you do have an issue like this, I'm not quite sure how you would go about resolving it. You've got any insight on this, Nev?
It's Ryanair. I don't do Ryanair.
Okay, fine, fair enough. My bad.
And yeah, so for the benefit of our US listeners, that fee in dollars works out about $70. That's $70, and that's so they can print you out an A4 piece of paper with a ticket on. So it's quite an expensive piece of A4 paper, I think.
It is.
Yeah. So moving on to the next story, and as always, it's a fantastic BA story. And this one, actually, Nev, I completely forgot about this. I did know from many years ago, but I totally forgot about this particular part of BA.
Yeah, and it's on Flight Global. We don't normally talk Flight Global until the military section. But, this is the former BA Chinook helicopters could make a UK comeback. And civil registered Chinook helicopters formerly owned by BA could make a surprise return to the UK operations after Bristow Group announced a $560 million merger with tandem rotor stalwart Columbia Helicopters. Although British Airways helicopters previously had a 6-strong fleet of Boeing Vertol BV-234s, the commercial variant of the heavy lift rotorcraft, these were phased out during the late 1980s by successor British International helicopters. In fact, the majority of the former BIH fleet were acquired by Columbia in 1989, with 4 airframes still operated by the Aurora, Oregon-based company Flight Fleets Analyzer Records. Discussing the acquisition on a 9th of November results call, outgoing Bristow Chief Executive Jonathan Balliff said he sees opportunities to deploy Columbia's assets wherever Bristow has a presence. We expect to use the civilian Chinook and Vertol fleet in our AOCs. These are operations in which we have air operator certificates in Europe and around the world. In the United Kingdom, that the Chinooks can come in and operate for us in firefighting and other non-US government work, he says. Columbia has an active fleet of 21 Chinooks, both the BV-234 and the CH-47D variants, alongside 11 Boeing Vertol 107s, known as the CH-46, Sea-Knight in US Marine Corps service, as well as dozens of parked airframes, according to Bristow data. These helicopters are used around the world for heavy lift operations, including onshore oil and gas, forestry work and logistics transport for the US military. Whilst Bristow will be able to redeploy Columbia's fleet, Balliff also sees potential for its idle aircraft to go the other way. The oil and gas specialist has a 22-strong fleet of Airbus helicopters, H225s, that have been parked since a fatal 2016 crash of another operator's Super Puma in Norway. These aircraft, on which Bristow booked an $87.5 million impairment charge for the quarter ended 30th September, are unlikely ever to make a return in the offshore industry, the company concedes. Although it's been actively marketing the H225 fleet to potential customers, market conditions and alternative opportunities for the helicopters indicate a substantial return to oil and gas service within our operators is not likely, says Bristow in a quarterly accounts filing. Balliff says that the parked airframes, which also include Sikorsky S-76s, could find use on US military contracts via Columbia's Commercial Airlift Review Board certification. Whilst it will take some period of time, potentially a year or so, to include H225s on the CARB documentation, Balliff thinks that the demand is there. That's exciting because we have idle H225s that can go to work within this CARB certificate, and they're already being requested today, he says. Bristow's intentions to change the use of its Super Puma mirrors recent H225 sales, which have seen former oil and gas-rolled examples reconfigured for utility transport missions. Well, that's very interesting. And I seem to remember many years ago that BA used to use these aircraft as a shuttle and ferry service from Heathrow to Gatwick. And if you landed at Heathrow and you wanted to go to Gatwick, this is before the M25 and expensive taxes, you merely got on one of their Chinooks instead. But this is way back in the 70s, I'm sure, late 70s.
Yeah, 74, around about 74, yeah.
I never got the chance to go on one, sadly, so I was relegated to a London taxi instead.
But it's just so bizarre, though, to obviously Matt just put the pictures up on the live feed. It's just bizarre seeing a Chinook with the old original BA livery painted on the side, and you tend to associate airlines with airliners, fixed wing aircraft kind of thing, not with helicopters. But
I must admit, helicopters are one of the we all know I'm not keen on flying full stop, but there is something about helicopters that do make me rather nervous in the fact that they're not made in a factory like, say, a Boeing aircraft. They're made at Hogwarts, as far as I'm concerned. These stupid helicopter things. It's just slightly frightening, but a cool experience, I dare say, though. And the Chinook obviously is
oh god, yes,
very
awesome
well reliable, very reliable as a piece of kit. It hasn't got that. I know there was an incident a few Saturdays ago, wasn't there, out of Leicester, which they think might have been an issue with the little rotor, don't they, at the back? Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Mr. Warner, actually, even Mr. Warner was quite impressed by the BA colours on the Chinook.
Yeah, he's definitely.
Do
you fancy a go, Nev?
I think so. Yeah. Although I'm not very. I have been in a helicopter twice now, I think. Yes, it's pretty noisy, I've got to say.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Much vibration too.
Indeed.
Tony S says Death Trap comes to mind.
That's a word.
Oh, dear. Anyway, moving on.
Not legally binding. I know. You appreciate.
Next story. Next story is on the independent.co.uk. A bit of a sad story, this one, in a way. Flybe, who most of you in the UK would have heard of Flybe, one of our small kind of regional kind of carrier, which they do go flight to Europe as well. But Flybe is up for sale, unfortunately, as the airline struggles with high oil prices. So Europe's biggest regional airline, Flybe, is seeking a buyer as it struggles with weak demand and oil prices. The carrier, which has a busy network of UK and short-haul international flights, has announced a comprehensive review of the various strategic options open to it. The address the current challenges facing the airline industry and maximising value for the shareholders. Three options are continuing to shrink and cut costs, to strengthen the balance sheet and preserve cash, and to sell the firm. It's in talks with a number of possible buyers. Flybe's chief executive, Christine Wiedner, said that there's been a recent softening in growth in the short-haul market, as well as continued headwinds from higher fuel and currency costs. They're responding to this by reviewing every aspect of the business. We remain confident, she said, in the vital role that Flybe plays in UK connectivity. Flybe began as Jersey European Airways back in 1979. It became British European in 2000 and then changed its name again to Flybe in 2002. The Exeter-based airline operates 192 routes from 75 airports, and it has the highest number of flights at a dozen UK airports, including Aberdeen, Belfast City, Birmingham, Glasgow, Manchester and Southampton. The announcement came as the airline announced its profits for the 6 months from April to September had halved to 7.4 million compared with the same spell in 2017. It represents a profit of 1.41 for each of the 5.2 million passengers flown. Capacity fell 9%, while revenue per seat rose by 7.2%. Its net debt increased to 82 million. During the winter, Flybe loses quite a bit of money. The airline will continue to shrink with the aim of shedding 8 of the 78 aircraft currently in the fleet by 2021. On Brexit, it warns that failure to reach an agreement may put at risk or damage parts of the business. Flybe has not said who it's talking to. IAG, owner of BA, Iberia and Aer Lingus, is looking to expand, so a possible buyer there. European airlines might be interested in Flybe in order to establish a firm foothold within the UK market, but there are uncertainties over airline ownership rules after Brexit. One leading aviation insider said that any buyer would need to inject around £100 million of cash into the airline. An alternative could be to carve up the airline's network with a central core of links connecting Southampton, Birmingham, Manchester, Belfast and the Scottish airports seen as the main prizes. It's a real shame this, because Flybe, obviously they've been around a while in a few different names, but obviously they fly quite frequently over here. You'll hear the Dash 8s flying over here quite a bit that they have. But I've not had the chance to fly with Flybe, unfortunately. It did fly for a little time from Norwich, I think, many
They did, didn't they? Didn't they used to do flights to like Newquay and things like that?
Yes.
Yeah, in the little prop planes.
Bit expensive.
Oh, were they?
From our local airport, yeah, unfortunately. But
everything's expensive from our local airport.
Perhaps Nev BA will snap, or IAG will snap Flybe up. And
they've got a really good regional route, actually, haven't they? All the way from Exeter up to Aberdeen, I think Inverness and Orkney and Shetland as well. It's a Well, I'm surprised that they've got this sort of money problem at the moment, because I would have thought that all of those services could easily be filled. But of course, the other thing is they operate into they do a Heathrow to Edinburgh and Aberdeen service, and so imagine the cost of landing at Heathrow in a turboprop as well. Yeah. So I don't know, and of course the time it takes. It probably adds 15 minutes to the journey as well. So I'd be interested to see what happens, but I'm sure another major operator will probably snap them up, because the regional ops that they do are pretty good, I think.
Neil Lamorne in the chat room says that he's always had a really pleasant flight with Flybe, plenty of leg room.
Really? Now that's a rare thing these days, isn't it?
Yeah. And Richard King has just said that he's got a friend of his who's a captain with them on the Embraers and did some routes for Stobart, who's obviously a big player out of Southampton here in the UK.
Yeah.
So, moving on.
Before we move on to the next story, actually, I might we don't normally do shout-outs on the show, but I have to say that a very good friend of yours and mine is actually currently watching the show.
Oh, so really?
He's been on daddy duties recently, but he's busy cooking his dinner before he goes off DJing in Norwich.
Oh, it's Minnie.
It's Minnie, that's right. Yeah, in fact, he was your DJ at your wedding.
He was my DJ at our wedding, and he was also the DJ at my 40th birthday.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
Did I go to that? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you were there. Are you all right, Matt?
Yeah.
Having a senior moment.
I am having a senior
moment.
I am 41.
He's younger than me.
I know, soon to be 42,
by a few months.
It has to be said. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hello to you, Minnie.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happy DJing, my friend.
Happy DJing. Have a good night.
But actually, he and I are working on another project.
Oh, very good. Very good.
That involves this very space that we're currently sat in.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all for charity. It's all for
charity, mate.
Yeah,
anyway.
Sorry, I suppose we'll do some aviation
to the next story, Matt, which is for you. It's on the Telegraph.
Yeah.
This one.
Very serious stuff, this one, isn't it? Oh, I've got to... Oh, I do love an ad blocker. There we go. It's all part of the fun.
This is actually, Matt, this is a posh Ryanair story.
Yeah, which is slightly unnerving, I'm not going to lie. So this is Telegraph Travel, and it says £5,000 an hour, but no free booze. What to expect on board the Ryanair private jet.
Ooh.
Love it or loathe it. I can't read the article because the... Right. Okay.
Really, I've got mine here.
You see, it's not letting me. It's not letting me go past it.
Oh, do you want me to read it?
You're going to have to read it, I'm afraid.
All right, then.
I'll read as far as I can, and then I'll give you a poke
when
it gets there. So love it or loathe it. At least you... He said in the nicest... That's what she said. Love it or loathe it. At least you know what you get with Ryanair. Or do you? Who would have thought, for example, that the Irish Airlines most often associated with lurid, yellow and grumpy passengers has its own private jet? Yours for just £5,000 an hour. On top of taxes and fees... we know what you're thinking, and yes, you can take a second bag in the cabin free of charge. That's what's more, each passenger is allowed 2 hold bags, each weighing up to 20 kilograms. Are we talking about the same Ryanair?
So the charter aircraft has 60 business class seats. It's staffed by Ryanair pilots and cabin crew. The seats are a very plush leather and have a nice recline. Oh, that's good. And also have ample legroom, which does sound very luxurious compared to Ryanair's current offerings. However, even Ryanair's high-end customers don't get complimentary in-flight drinks, as Matt says, or meals. Private passengers can choose from a range of fine dining packages that cost from between €15 right through to €45 for
You've been watching MasterChef again,
gold service. I know. €15 gets you a tea, coffee, or water with unspecified snacks.
Unspecified snack.
I know. The gold package includes premium hot tea or coffee. And hot lunches and dinners. Customer service, the airline promises will be unbeatable on the private jet, but the pre-flight offering seems to be on par with Ryanair's usual scant, it says here. And when they've emailed with the corporate jet team to ask if the airline's usual fees apply to private customers, nobody answered the phone or responded, apparently. So it's unclear whether passengers will have to pay the extra £6 for their child, or £25 to carry an infant on their lap. Or the £55, as we said earlier on in the show, if they forget to check in online. Still, if all 60 seats are filled, it works out at around £83 per person per hour. That doesn't sound too steep when you consider the cheapest Ryanair flight from London to Dublin will cost around £176 one way, not including all the add-ons. Now, Ryanair operate this aircraft, obviously, like I said, it's a bit of a kind of a posh deal. They've only got one of these aircraft.
And it is actually, it is also a 737, I noticed.
Yes, it is, very much so, a 737.
Yeah.
And I haven't got the pictures of the interior here. I've got a few on this article here.
Yeah, no, I did pop that one
the
up there.
Seats do look quite nice, actually. They definitely do look different to the usual standard seats you'll find.
I've registered now. It does
say
say the aircraft is the same as Ryanair uses across its entire fleet of Boeing 737, but instead of the usual scrum of 189 passengers, the corporate jet offers just 60 luxurious leather seats in a 2-2 formation. The seats have a 48-inch pitch.
Really?
Yeah,
that's not
the
bad.
The measurement that betrays the amount of legroom, 18 inches more than the regular Ryanair service.
Do you know what I do believe, Matt?
Yeah.
I think even Nev might go on one of these.
Oh, I don't know. Go on, Nev.
I'm looking at his face here. And,
he doesn't look impressed, does he?
Is this the 737-700?
I think it is a 700, yeah.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I would have to give it a go just in the interest of doing a review.
Of research, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Where would you fly to for your... So was it... It's £5,000 to hire it for a whole hour, essentially, isn't it?
For an hour.
So where could that... Basically Dublin, I suppose.
You could go, Dublin or Edinburgh from the East Anglia. You go to, yeah.
Do you think it'd get in and out of Norwich all right?
It would get, it would definitely get in that.
Oh, would it? Oh, okay.
They'd charge you a £10 per passenger fee.
Ah, yes, the fee. Yes, the airport improvement
tax. Anyway.
Yes. Sorry, we shouldn't be too horrible.
No,
Carl works very hard.
Yes, Carl. Yeah. Hello, Carl Lake. Hello. Right, so moving on.
I want to give a... Sorry, I'm doing it tonight. Lots of shout-outs. I didn't realise, but Carl Lake works with the massive team of people who do the SOS bus in the middle of Norwich at stupid o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I must say, mate, having many years of working in Norwich, you and I have both worked in Norwich DJing and stuff. I doth my cap to you to the morons that are wandering down Prince of Wales Road on a Friday and Saturday night. So much respect to you for doing that,
long
my
as they're
friend.
Not flying, it's amazing.
Well, yes, indeed, yes, absolutely. I don't know if you've not heard of the SOS bus, look it up because it's a fantastic service. It really is. And basically, they look after people who are a little worse for wear, shall we say, rather than leaving it to the elements.
I thought that was Lowestoft rather than...
Now look here.
Anyway, we're going to move swiftly on to the next story, which Nev is a bit of a X-Files story for you on a BA note.
Yeah, it is a bit strange, isn't it? This is on the iAfrica website, and it says that British Airways crew claims to have seen a UFO. Well, the confused person on the radio was not someone typically associated with dodgy reports of extraterrestrial interaction. There were no claims that large-eyed green men crossed the cosmos to turn livestock inside out, or too detailed, breathless tales about cold metal tables and undignified alien probes. The flummoxed person on the radio was simply an airline pilot who could not explain what she saw in the sky over Ireland. The BA pilot was operating flight BA 94 from Montreal on Friday when she contacted the nearest air traffic control tower to inquire whether there was any military exercises over the Atlantic Ocean, to which she had been alerted, according to the Irish Examiner. When controllers told her that skies were clear, she politely set them straight. She said she and her crew saw bright lights streaking through the air at phenomenal speeds, twice the speed of sound. How was she able to measure that, I wonder? But it came up on our left-hand side, rapidly veered to the north, and we saw a bright light, and it just disappeared at very high speed. We were just wondering, the pilot said, according to the newspaper and audio of the interaction posted on the internet. We didn't think it was a likely collision course and just wondered what it could be. Also wondering, were pilots flying nearby who saw the same thing? Whatever it was. Virgin Atlantic pilot VS76 from Orlando to Manchester said it was not something but some things, multiple objects, following the same sort of trajectory, very bright from where we were. The Irish Aviation Authority said that the reports will be investigated under the normal confidential occurrence investigation process. But for many people who read between the classified lines, there was no need. We already know the truth. This is normally at the point where chortling naysayers would shout their disbelief. After all, for decades, the public has been told that aliens don't actually exist, and that people who believed otherwise were crackpots in tinfoil hats. But in an admission straight out of a B movie, the Pentagon recently confirmed that there was a $22 million government program to collect and analyze anomalous aerospace threats, government speak for UFOs. And Area 51, the secret base in Nevada, whose existence had been denied by the government for decades, has actually existed for decades, the government admitted. It was a test strip for a CIA spy plane and other classified aircraft, according to a CIA history declassified in 2013. And because the government had a giant secret test base in the Nevada desert, it used the area for all kinds of secret testing, putting the A-12 aircraft and the Angular F-117 stealth ground attack jet through their paces. So who needs a tinfoil hat now? The admission lent a patina of viability to a century of bizarre, unexplained phenomena. But what of the bright lights of the Atlantic, seen by not one but two airline crews, responsible for the health and well-being of hundreds of passengers? Aircraft experts told the Irish Examiner that the lights were probably meteorites entering Earth at a low angle. The high speeds were due to acceleration caused by the Earth's gravity. The bright lights were probably the result of friction as the celestial bodies pierced Earth's atmosphere.
So it's not anywhere near as exciting as UFOs, though, Nev. I'm not going to...
There's a couple, I mean, I don't know if they're on liveatc.net, but I know there was a couple of websites that did have the ATC audio recordings, which you could listen to, of the pilots reporting this, and they did make for quite interesting listening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the BA pilots actually, they were very serious indeed about what they'd seen, and from the flight deck and stuff. So, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, no. Is there something out there?
Probably.
Yeah.
I think it's very naive of us to assume that we are the only, form of life out in the solar system. I think that's very naive for us to think that. But yes, let's just hope they're friendly. That's all I'll say.
Now, they probably listen to the show.
Of course, absolutely, goes without saying.
So the next story is on the SeattleTimes.com website.
Now, this is a very worrying story. Nev, I noticed in one of our group chats you were having a conversation about this morning.
Yes, I was, and
well, let's let Carlos read this, yes. and we'll come to that in a moment.
Yeah, this one, as I said, it's on the SeattleTimes.com website. This was updated on the 15th of November. So the FAA evaluates a potential design flaw in Boeing's 737 MAX after the Lion Air crash. Analysts, including former Boeing flight controls experts, are concerned that a new automated flight control system on the Boeing 737 MAX may be flawed, and that the way that it changed the jet's handling could have sown confusion on the flight deck of the Lion Air flight JT610. The FAA said on Wednesday that it's evaluating whether to require Boeing to fix a possible flaw in its design of the new automated flight control system introduced for the 737 MAX jet. It's also looking into whether the technical data and training provided to pilots transitioning to the new jet model was adequate. Flight controls experts believe that lack of information about the new system likely confused the pilots flying the Lion Air jet that crashed on the 29th of October in Indonesia. The Air Safety Agency said on Wednesday that the FAA and Boeing continue to evaluate the need for software and or other design changes to the aircraft, including operating procedures and training. The accident investigation has already established that false readings from a sensor that measures the plane's angle of attack or the angle between the wing and oncoming airflow could have triggered a flight control system new on the MAX that relentlessly pushed the nose of the aircraft downward. FAA spokesman Greg Martin said the angle of attack values used by several systems include the air data, flight controls, the stall warning, etc., and the safety analysts for each of these systems are currently being reviewed. Flight controls experts say the new system kicking in would have changed the feel of the aircraft's control yoke from what the pilots had experienced in training on simulators, possibly sowing confusion aboard the flight JT610. Boeing insists the aircraft is safe to fly. Appearing Tuesday on the Fox Business Network, Chief Executive Dennis Muhlenberg said that the MAX is very safe, and he also said that Boeing provides all of the information that's needed to fly safely for all their aircraft. Even the pilots at American Airlines and Southwest, who on Monday expressed concern they had not been given prior information about the new flight control system, continue to fly the aircraft. They've been assured that a standard procedure Boeing highlighted after the Lion crash will turn off the system if it goes awry in the future and quickly return the jet to normal flight. Still, even though it may be no more than one element in a string of events that led to the Lion Air catastrophe, the new MAX flight control system has become a subject of intense controversy. 3 former Boeing flight control experts were startled by the FAA's description last week of the new MAX system. In an airworthiness directive, the FAA cited analysis of Boeing that if an erroneously high single angle of attack sensor input is received by the flight control system, there is a potential for repeated downward nose trim commands that will swivel the plane's horizontal tail to pitch the nose downward. The fact that the aircraft's nose could be automatically and repeatedly pushed down due to one false signal shocked Peter Lehm, a former Boeing flight controls engineer, who said it looks like a design flaw. Yes, worrying things really. Because obviously aircraft like the MAX and all aircraft, new aircraft designs, are obviously put under massive test programs. You know, this aircraft had quite an extensive test program with Boeing.
Now, Nev, you were actually doing some research this morning, I noticed, with consulting with several of our pilot friends, shall we say.
Yes, I've turned the volume down, which is not very helpful, is it? So I've turned it back up now. I was trying to find out under what sort of conditions that this would happen, but it seems that this all can happen and does happen in fully manual flight mode as well. So
really?
With the autopilot and auto throttle disengaged, if the aircraft thinks that it's going to be getting close to experiencing a stall, it will do this forward trim, and the way that it does it is quite aggressive by the sounds of things as well. So there is going to be a whole lot of trouble here, and I don't want to say too much about it really, because obviously I don't know lots about it, but just talking to 2 or 3 people today, I can just imagine that if this is shown to be a big problem and that the flight crews weren't aware of it or weren't being trained on it, then the lawyers are going to have a field day with this.
And this is the one thing that's really bothering me with this story, is the fact that nobody really appears to be aware of this new function. That's the bit that's surprising everyone.
I think one of the big problems is, I read on an article this week online as well about this particular aircraft and the training is that I think the article said there's either 5 or 6 simulators of this aircraft that pilots can train on in the world. which
Okay.
is not a lot.
No, it's not.
Whereas obviously the NG, the kind of say the one that we flew on in London
Yeah.
in January this year, that particular simulator and the full motion one, there's lots of those around the world, and there are differences between the NG and the Max, and obviously you need to be in a simulator that simulates the aircraft you're going to fly.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
that's my thought on it anyway.
Yeah, well, we have to sort of see. As you say, I think there's I believe one phrase that I've seen in various chats this week is that there may have been a can of worms open somewhere.
So moving on to the next story, Matt, and this one is on the channelnewsasia.com, and an interesting airline name.
Yes, so it's Vietnam's newest airline, Bamboo, gets an aviation license. So the story is coming out of Hanoi. So Vietnam's newest carrier, Bamboo Airways, has been granted a license to fly, officials and the airline said, paving the way for its inaugural flight in a region crowded with competitors. Run by one of the country's richest men, Bamboo will compete with well-established heavy hitters such as national carrier Vietnam Airlines and budget carrier VietJet?
VietJet, yes.
VietJet, so apologies if I've said that wrong, to serve a mushrooming middle class with growing appetites and budgets for travel. Vietnam's Transport Secretary said Bamboo's official aviation license had been approved and that it would aim to operate 100 routes, including to lesser travelled destinations in Vietnam and elsewhere in Asia, with plans to eventually fly to North America. The first domestic flights are aimed at reducing pressure on aviation infrastructure in major cities, strengthening regional links and promoting tourism to Vietnam, the Transport Ministry said in a statement on Tuesday. The airline is owned by Trin Van Cuet, I think, so apologies if that's nowhere near how it should be said, who heads the FLC property empire that includes lush beachside resorts, golf clubs and luxury condos across Vietnam, a country still under one-party communist rule. Bamboo has already signed up to buy 20 of Boeing's 787 Dreamliners, worth, in excess of $5.6 billion US, and committed a further $3.2 billion to buy 24 Airbus A321neos. The airline said its inaugural flight, originally scheduled for last month, should take place before the end of the year. We have conducted a test flight. The results show that the aircraft fully meets technical specifications and is ready to go into operation, the CEO of the company said in a statement. Bamboo is hoping to steal customers from competitors, luring them to off the beaten path destinations in Vietnam, such as I want to say Quai Non and Tan Hoi, and by offering bundled travel packages to FLC resorts. I'm going to get another email now, aren't I? But analysts...
Did you get rice with those as well?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, absolutely. But analysts say the outdated model may not work in an era where most travellers can easily tailor holidays online, and wonder whether Bamboo's big bet will pay off in Southeast Asia's busy aviation market. It was mentioned in an interview earlier this year that they are certain the airline will be huge and expects to make a profit soon after launch. Born to a poor rural family near Hanoi, where life among bamboo trees inspired the airline's name, the CEO now runs FLC Group with a market capitalization around $200 million US.
So they are a very new airline, as Matt said. They've only just started this month, and I was just looking at their website to actually see what the it's quite a nice, crisp, fresh website. Bamboo
is it?
Airways.com, yeah, and as the fleet says on their website, they're obviously buying the 321neo. But they're also got the Dash 9 Dreamliners as well on order, and they, according to their website, they intend by 2023 to have 16 international flights out of Vietnam. But I'll tell you what, it's good guys to see, because we hear all the stories every week. We normally have a story about an airline that's in trouble, or an airline that's unfortunately failed. But it's good to see at least an airline, starting.
I think there'll always be people willing to sort of set up, and one of these days, somebody's going to set one up, and it is actually going to work purely because they are doing something that other people aren't.
I tell you what, the airline name, Bamboo Airways, that's not a bad choice of name because bamboo is incredibly strong.
Right.
Isn't it?
Well, yeah, true.
So it's good.
It's also eaten by koala bears. I don't know if that's relevant.
Yes, a couple of comments in the chat room from Richard King. He says they will pander to your every
Very
whim.
good. Yes.
And are they aiming to stick it to the competition?
Bravo. That's glorious. That is well done. Yeah, absolutely. Also, is it the I don't know, my poor geographical knowledge here. I sort of feel that maybe Bamboo Airways should be based sort of somewhere in China where the pandas are from, perhaps, rather than although it's not called Panda Airways, so it's not really relevant. I dare say bamboo grows in
we could
Vietnam.
start that airline up.
What Panda Airways?
You better patent that now or whatever they think it.
Copyright it.
Yeah, Panda Airways.
You in on it, Nev?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
right.
Totally. Yes, I'm ready to collect the fees
dividend.
For that,
yes,
certainly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There we are.
There's a few things we could say there, but it's a family show.
Yeah,
So moving on to the next story then, Nev, and this is quite an interesting story.
It is, but it's just all a bit wrong again, I think.
Oh dear.
This is on TheVerge.com, and it says that 15 years after Concorde, supersonic jets are booming back into style. Are they? Well, you might not remember, but there used to be a jet called the Concorde.
Oh, really? I do vaguely recall it.
Do you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the people that call it the Concorde, by the way, that's just poor. It's called Concorde.
Yeah.
But it had a cruising speed of 1,354 miles per hour, which is just over Mach 2. And usually a 7-hour flight on a regular aircraft, but only just over 3.5 hours on Concorde. Concorde went out of service in 2003, and supersonic jets fell out of favour. Well, there weren't any other civil aircraft that were supersonic. That's probably why. And a new crop of aviation startups is hoping to resurrect it. And thanks to a new set of laws in the US, that comeback seems all but assured. Buoyed by rich investors who want faster private jets, these startups are testing new technologies that could muffle the sonic boom that occurs when an airplane breaks the sound barrier. These cannon blast booms led Congress to ban supersonic jets from flying over the US soil in 1973. But in October, President Trump signed a bill directing the FAA to consider lifting the ban, breathing new life into the industry. NASA is planning to test an X-59 Quest prototype over major US cities in 2023. 3 startups, Aerion, Spike Aerospace, and Boom Supersonic, are designing planes that would cut long flights in half. Can I just say that title of Boom Supersonic sort of goes against the whole article, really, doesn't it? But last month, GE announced that it would create a new supersonic passenger jet for Aerion. But environmentalists are worried that these faster planes will spew more polluting carbon into the environment. All of the startups aiming to fly supersonic in the next decade have touted low emissions as a goal, but it simply takes more fuel to go faster, raising critical questions. The idea that you're actually going to overcome local opposition to supersonic aviation routes, says Carl Pope, former executive director of the Sierra Club, who has written in opposition to supersonic planes. We can't build a new freeway in this country because of local opposition. Why does everybody think that we're going to be able to assault hundreds of millions of people with sonic booms? This is not real. Well, I have to agree with that, because if you remember how long it took for the Port Authority to accept Concorde into JFK and Washington and Miami and Dallas and all the other US cities where it flew to. I just think that I know there's a lot of supersonic projects going on at the moment, but the actual appetite for it has reduced somewhat, and I just don't think that this is viable. Imagine what the cost of doing this is going to be in terms of,
the bit that surprises me though is like everybody sort of, you mention Concorde and everybody that we've ever spoken to all go a bit warm and fuzzy. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just amazed that based on that, if you say some Concorde, oh, I'd have loved to have flown on Concorde, and I'm amazed that there isn't an appetite for it, if you see what I mean, for that, or do you think it's the love affair with Concorde because it was the first? That's why people, look at it so warmly.
Well, it's been obviously the only civil airliner that's had supersonic capability, and Andrew Wilson in the chat room was saying that maybe the corporate sector might be interested in it, but he can't see it being a mainstream thing. I think that's very true, and bearing in mind the sort of heights that these things will be flying at, probably 60,000 feet, something like that. Yes, because things go supersonic, they make a noise, and I don't know the technology involved at all, but I'd be amazed if they can actually avoid creating a supersonic boom over the land.
I mean, there's very little they can do to prevent it, surely. I mean, it's
the particles there and not getting out the way quick enough for the aircraft coming through. It's simple as that, isn't it? Simple physics. So but obviously I'll be very interested to see what happens with this, but I don't think in my lifetime we're going to see certainly any supersonic civilian airliners, mainstream stuff, but we might possibly just see some corporate jets and some specialist things, perhaps things that are 12-seat aircraft, 15-seat aircraft, but
maybe corporate, as you say, because I mean, let's be honest, it's the corporate people who are desperate to get from here to New York in in sort of half the time, literally, because they're going there for a sort of 2-3 hour meeting and then they need to come home. I mean, if you are flying supersonic, then it does make it a very commutable distance, doesn't it? So maybe there'll be interest in the corporate world, as you say.
So before I read the next story, I think we need to go back to the chat room. And just on a comment from the last story about Bamboo Air.
Oh, dear.
Richard King has come up with an absolute pearl here. He says that when Bamboo Airways are on a Cat 3 approach, they would reach Ho Chi minimums. He is on fire, I tell you. Well done, Richard. And welcome us also to the chat room, Dr. Steph, who is currently driving home from work, whilst not watching the show, obviously.
No, listening in the car,
just listening in the car via her Bluetooth system. So welcome to you, Dr. Steph. Yeah. So the next story on the list of this weekend is something that actually me and Nev were both watching quite intently this week, and we were both sort of chatting between each other on WhatsApp, weren't we, Nev, about what was going on here. But this one is on the aviationherald.com website, Simon's awesome site. We all know and love the Aviation Herald, and it's an incident, I should say, that happened, and this was involving an Astana Embraer 190, and this happened on the 11th of November. And the Air Astana Embraer ERJ 190, registration Papa 4 Kilo Charlie Juliet, performing flight KC1388 from Alverca, Portugal, to Minsk in Belarus, and further to Altami, Kazakhstan, with 3 crew and 3 passengers. Not quite full then, was in the initial climb in adverse meteorological conditions when the crew felt the aircraft did not adequately respond to control inputs. The autopilot could not be engaged, and the aircraft developed It's this coffee you gave me before the show. Oscillatory wing movements, despite the crew using the controls in all the 3 aircraft axes to counter and minimize the oscillations. The aircraft and occupants encountered high G loads. The crew declared an emergency, considering to ditch the aircraft in the ocean due to lack of control. While continuing to struggle with the aircraft, none of the aircraft systems issued any indication of any malfunction. Only alerts for abnormal flight attitudes occurred. The crew lost control completely several times, but were able to regain control to some extent. In discussions between the 3 pilots on board, as well as the 3 technicians, the crew decided to disable the flight control module, the FCM, and put the flight controls into direct mode. Therefore, the situation improved considerably, however, without restoring the normal operations, as difficulties to control the aircraft's roll axis ailerons and bank angle remained. The crew realised the ailerons were behaving erratically and reduced roll control to an absolute minimum. After the crew were able to maintain a heading and altitude, the crew decided to look for an airport in good weather, and plan was developed with ATC to land at Beja in Portugal, and a pair of F-16s fighter aircraft from the Portugal's Air Force joined the aircraft. A landing was intended on Beja's runway 19 right. The aircraft needed to go around twice due to unstabilised approaches, and the approach runway 19 right a third time would touch down on runway 19 left due to it being unable to correct the drift. 2 occupants were taken to hospital. Portugal's GPIAA rated the occurrence as serious, and a report on November the 14th said that all on board were physically and emotionally shaken, one of the passengers sustaining a leg injury. The investigation is ongoing, they said, and still pending a confirmation on the undertaking of additional testing. The evidence was possible to collect at the time. Drafting says that the existence of failures in the aircraft's roll controls configuration consistent with possible disturbances during maintenance actions. The aircraft had undergone maintenance previously or earlier in Alverca and was on its first flight after maintenance. Now I watched there's an actual video that accompanies this story on the Aviation Herald site, and it's only a short video, but it does show the aircraft landing. I don't know whether you watch this one, Nev, but it's interesting to watch and see, how far off the centre line the aircraft was.
Well, originally it was going to land on 19 right, but they couldn't line it up to that, so it landed right on the right-hand side of 19 left, and they, presumably with rudder control, eventually managed to get it back into the centre line. But listening to the live ATC as we were last weekend, it was pretty harrowing, wasn't it? I mean, the guys were really desperate, and they were absolutely determined that they were going to have to put it down in the sea because it was so uncontrollable. They didn't think they could land it on any paved surface. And I sort of glibly said, well, why can't they just fly to Faro or something like that? But of course, they couldn't. They didn't have proper directional control. And it was all over the shop. If you look at the Flight Radar 24 traces, it was very bad. And although it's obviously this has come out of maintenance, this aircraft, but and there was, I think it was 6 people on board, and there was a couple of people were taken to hospital. Imagine if this had been a full flight of 100 odd passengers or more on this aircraft. That would have been absolutely diabolical, let alone with the additional weights and all the rest of it. So luckily they had enough fuel to have these other options, but it sounded very traumatic indeed, really terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back. I think there's actually, Nev, on liveatc.net, there is a section on there you can click on. Awesome site for those of you who like to listen to ATC around across the globe. And there's a certain section on that website where you can click on interesting recordings, and you can listen to the chat between ATC and the pilots and that. And they did sound really quite disturbed.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes crews have some control problems, and they're a bit minor, so they can't take certain headings, or they have to do reduced turn headings. But this wasn't even close. And I heard a couple of call outs from the automated systems of bank angle and all sorts of things going on. So that it was they were really struggling with it. How on earth they got the thing down as they did, it must have been absolutely terrifying for them.
And this is what's so amazing about the pilots. This is the thing. Hats off to them, as you say. What could have so easily been a horrific incident. All right, all sounds very scary, but at the end of the day, they got the aircraft down safely on the ground, and of course they will. After the investigation, they will learn from this, won't they? I mean, so the routines and steps we put in place to ensure that you don't get a failure like this again.
It does sound like an issue with with the computer there. What do you reckon, Nev? Possibly.
Well, if it's just come out of maintenance, and there's things can happen sometimes, but obviously the thing was completely uncontrollable at one point. They did regain some control later on, but not good enough to do proper precision approach onto a runway and to get it down. But it was absolutely incredible that they managed to get it down in one piece.
Yeah.
So the next story, Matt, is one for you on Flight Global, isn't it? It's a story about a sad sort of parting of company.
Indeed. So Flight Global, as Carlos said, and the headline is China Southern to leave SkyTeam. So China Southern has announced that it will leave the SkyTeam alliance next year as it pursues new partnerships with carriers around the world. In disclosures to the Hong Kong and Shanghai stock exchanges, the carrier says it will not renew its SkyTeam membership from the 1st of January 2019 and that it will complete the transition arrangements within the year. The China-based carrier said that its decision is based on the company's development strategy and to better align with the new trend of cooperation model in the global aviation industry. The company will explore the possibilities to establish new partnerships with advanced airlines around the world, promoting bilateral and multilateral cooperation and provide quality services to passengers around the world. It adds that it will work closely with the SkyTeam to ensure a sound transition for its customers and partners, and that it does not expect the move to have any impact on its business operations. China Southern's decision reflects its strategic development, the changing trends of the global aviation industry and the evolution of alliances, says SkyTeam. The alliance's chief executive, Christian Colville, adds, "Network has always been the foundation of SkyTeam. Our new value proposition retains that strong integrated network and combines it with our continued focus on improving customer experience through technology. China Southern has been a valued member of SkyTeam, but we respect its decision and wish it well." The airline's move follows reports in 2017 that China Southern had held internal discussions about possibly leaving SkyTeam around the same time that One World carrier American Airlines closed a $200 million investment deal for a 2.68 stake in the Chinese carrier that August. That has seen the two carriers keep in close contact and implement code-share arrangements on each other's flights. China Southern has also been since signed a code-share agreement with One World's British Airways, while it also has a code-share relationship with Qantas. Sources had indicated at the time that there was a perception that it had been sidelined after Delta Airlines invested $450 million into fellow SkyTeam carrier China Eastern Airlines in September 2015.
So for those of you who are wondering what SkyTeam is, you may not know this. SkyTeam is an airline alliance that was founded in 2000. SkyTeam was the last of the three major airline alliances to be formed, the first two being the Star Alliance and the other one, One World, which Nev will know very well. And there's 20 as of March this year. There was 20 in the SkyTeam. Obviously, it's 19 now because they've left. But,
well, not leaving till the end of the year.
Yeah. So you've got just a quick run for you. You've got in SkyTeam. You've got Aeroflot, obviously Russian airline, and you've got Aerolíneas Argentinas, Aeromexico, Air Europa, Air France, Alitalia, China Airlines, China Eastern Airlines, China Southern, Czech Airlines, Delta Airlines, Guada Indonesia, Kenya Airways as well, KLM, they're also part of SkyTeam, Korean Air, Middle East Airlines, Saudia, Tarom, Vietnam Airlines, and Yemen Air as well. They're also part of SkyTeam. But it's obviously they've had enough. They decided that they don't want to be friends anymore. It's a shame.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I mean, it's they've obviously made their decision, haven't they? Yeah. That's what they want to do.
So the last story for today is a top 10.
Oh, I say.
Because we love a top 10.
Do we? Okay.
And this top 10 is on the SCMP website, and this is the top 10 airlines in the world 2019. Now, quite how they could say this when we're only in 2018, I'm not quite sure. But anyway.
Okay. Right. Perhaps it's, forward thinking. That's the key. Yeah.
So this particular story is on the Business Insider. And it's been done, the actual survey has been done by the Australian aviation website airlineratings.com or airlineratings.com.
Right. I think we featured them before, actually.
I think we have, yeah.
Indeed.
And so we have a top 10, and we're going to start, obviously, as we always do, with number 10. So, Nev, if you want to kick us off.
In at number 10.
Number 10 is Japan Airlines.
At number 9.
Number 9, it's Cathay Pacific Airways, the flag carrier of Hong Kong.
It's a new entry at number 8.
Number 8 is Eva Air.
Number 7, please.
All Nippon Airways, the largest Japanese airline in terms of fleet size.
Oh, it's a big airline, this. It's number 6.
Certainly is, and it's Emirates.
It's in 5.
Special one for Grant McCarran. This one is Virgin Australia Airlines.
In 4.
The unpronounceable Qatar Airways.
In 3.
G'day, mate. It's another one for Grant McCarran. It's Qantas.
There is more people than just Grant.
Right,
In 2.
It's Air New Zealand.
Oh, and Bully's special prize.
It's number 1 spot. It's Singapore Airlines, the flag carrier of Singapore.
Ooh.
And I want to try them out. I really need to fly Singapore. And do you know what? One of the destinations where Gemma said she wants to go
is
Singapore.
flown by them. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So maybe on the cards. Maybe on the cards
Indeed.
Yeah,
There we are.
yeah.
Well.
So we go. Quick top 10 then for the end of the news stories there. And if you want to take yourselves over to airlineratings.com, you can have a look on there. And there's also some other good bits on that website where they've done some various kind of reviews on different parts of the airline industry. So take yourselves over to there.
Indeed.
What do you think of the number 1, Nev? Singapore?
Oh, great airline. I haven't flown Singapore for a while. I think it was 2003 and 2004 when I went to the Grand Prix in Melbourne. Yes, very, very nice. Although on the way back, because I was flying in the cheap seats back then, the 13-hour slog from Singapore to Heathrow was accompanied by a very noisy child, which I think went on for about 11 and a half hours.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, or it certainly felt like it.
Okay, yes.
But no complaints about the airline at all, even back then. Really good.
Yeah. So that is where we are going to bring the commercial news segment to a close. So as we always do at this time of the show, we're going to hand things over to Nev to introduce the next awesome segment of the show.
Great. Thanks, Carlos. Well, it's always superb, isn't it, when we hear from our listeners and they tell us about their aviation adventures. This is a great one because our friend Matthew Bunting Frame sent us in some audio feedback, which I've put a bit of pictures to. And it's all about his flight with Evan Shue in the SR-22.
G'day, guys. Any day you get to go flying is a great day. But the day you get to go flying with a really good mate has got to be one of the best days of your life. Listen to the tale of myself and my mate Evan Shue as we go flying in an SR-22. Any day your mate gives you a buzz and says, "Hey Matt, let's arrange to go flying." What are you going to say? No? Of course not. You're always going to say yes. That's what I did when my mate Evan Shue gave me a call to say, "Matt, let's take up the SR-22. For you who don't know what an SR-22 is, it kind of looks like a Piper Warrior, but that's where the similarities end. The Cirrus SR-22 is a composite material aircraft, meaning it's made not of metal, but of carbon and fiberglass, and a little bit of metal as well. That makes it really light, and having an engine that has 310 horsepower makes it really fast. You might have heard of the SR-22 through other podcasts, Max Trescott and also Dr. Steph from the APG. The SR-22 has had a few accidents over the past few years, but that's just purely due to new aircraft and people getting used to it. Not making excuses, and people can get complacent in this aircraft because it is super comfy to sit in. And when I say super comfy, it is really, really comfortable. Imagine kit out of Knight Rider and put wings on it. That's pretty much what an SR-22 is. It has a G1000 cockpit, meaning that everything is all electronic. There's no steam gauges except for an artificial horizon on the pilot side. The shell of the cockpit is rated to 13 Gs, which means it's awfully strong. And it has a ballistic parachute. Right between you and above your head is a red pulley. It's unbelievable. It's just like pull down and out comes a rocket, boom, and there's a parachute and oh look, we're going to float down. Not a great way to finish up the life of a Cirrus, but at least you got the option. Now for people who like Airbus, the SR-22 is for you. It has a side stick, just like your A320, A321, 18s and 19s, your 330s, your 340s, your 350s, and your 380s. But it's not an Airbus. It's a Cirrus. Seriously fun. Evan is a great pilot. When I say great pilot, great pilots make you feel comfortable when you're in an aircraft. I'm a very comfortable flyer myself, but he is very professional at what he does, which made the trip we made even more enjoyable. I was able to have a chat with Evan before we took off, which I've recorded and it's going to play on after this. And during our flight, Evan did make a few recordings. Just to set the scene for you, Melbourne put on one of the best days it could have in spring. Blue skies, no wind, ambient temperature of about 22 degrees Celsius. Evan asked me, Matt, do you want to go flying over your house? Now, I live on the Mornington Peninsula, which is one of the most beautiful parts of Melbourne. Well, it's not Melbourne, it's south of Melbourne. Of course I said yes. I've got two beautiful daughters whom I told I was going flying and were waiting for me in their backyard. So, off we took, and the plane just rocketed up to 2,000 feet. We had to put the power back to 75%, and at 75%, it was flying at 150 knots. 150 knots! So there we are, tracking down coastal at 2,000 feet at 150 knots. Going past foxbats and vixens like they were just little speed humps in the rear vision mirror. It was great! So we tracked down to Arthur's Seat, hung a left, went over to Shoreham, went down to the edge of Western Port Bay, hung a right, and headed west. Now Evan always had wanted to go and see Cape Schanck Lighthouse, so we tracked coastal. Now the coast between Flinders, where we hung the turn, and Cape Schanck is very much like the rugged coastline of Cornwall. So it's very picturesque, very, very beautiful part of Victoria. Once we got to Cape Schanck, we hung a right turn again and took a couple of photos and headed back towards my place where my daughters were hanging out in the backyard waiting for me. I jumped on the phone, texted my wife, said, hey, get the girls out the back. So they did. They went out the back, and there they were, waving at Daddy and Evan in the SR-22. Come on, you GA aircraft pilots out there, who hasn't done that one? Once we did that, we decided to head back to Moorabbin. Now, the time from wheels up to wheels down was only 40 minutes. If you're in a 152, it would have taken you over an hour. Going into this flight though, I tried not to have any kind of preconceptions of the Cirrus. I thought let's just take it on its merits. And I gotta say, it absolutely is a ripper. It's a great aeroplane, beautiful to fly. All you need to do is trim it up and a little bit of back pressure on the side stick and you're just there. It's just there. You're just sitting in an aircraft, headset on, comfortable, you're not having to fight anything, and it just feels right. So we recorded a little bit before we took off, and Evan recorded some audio during our flight. Now, it captures a lot of the fun that we had, so I hope that you enjoy it as much as we did. Anyway, for now, MBF out.
Okay.
G'day, Evan. How are you, mate?
Hey, how you going, Matt? Welcome to the Cirrus.
Thanks, mate. How long have we been planning this one for?
Oh, it seems like forever. So, but couldn't have asked for a better day for it.
Yeah,
it's a severe clear over here.
It absolutely. Not a puff of wind in the sky, is it?
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? Where are we going to go?
I think we might go and buzz your house.
Buzz my house?
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. I'll have to let the girls know to go out the backyard and wave at Daddy.
We'll do it from a legal height.
Of course, absolutely, absolutely.
But, time to get in. I've done the daily. We've got plenty of fuel.
The guys that went flying earlier this morning have said it's just smooth and beautiful out there, so I can't wait to get up and go.
Just so that people might know who Evan Shue is, but for those who are unacquainted with you in the AvGeek community, who are you?
I'm a PPL holder in Southeast Australia. I fly out of Moorabbin. That's we're here today, and I'm lucky enough to fly the Cirrus. For a year or two I was flying the SR20, and only 2 weeks ago I was lucky enough to upgrade to the 22. So that means a little bit more power, a little bit more load carrying capability, but the outside of the aircraft and the interior is all exactly the same. So it's actually the change is a pretty easy one. So and I work for an EFB producing company called Avplan EFB. So every now and again I get to fly ourselves around the country for the company, and we needed a way to carry more of us together because one plane is cheaper than 2 planes.
Absolutely, and this has capacity for 4 people.
4 people
comfortably.
Yeah, absolutely. The newer models even have a five seat.
5 seat.
You probably wouldn't get 5 adults, but 3 kids definitely.
3 kids.
Yeah.
That might be something for you, Dispatcher Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Keen to get some more hours in the 22. So I thought, what better way than take my buddy Matt up.
So we might have a chat to you from the air.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, this is MBF out. Evan in this recording does a great job, and he's edited it out so that you can hear his clear calls in our communication, and also talking to ATC. So anyway, back to it. Here's the tape of Evan and I in the plane.
Okay, so
Hey,
anyone's coming from this way?
clear on the left, checking on the right. We have it.
Clear, so that's good.
Baron on the right.
We'll be behind him. Moorabbin ground, good morning. Cirrus, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot is in the southern run-up bay receipt of Quebec. Request taxi to 35 left for a departure to the south.
Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot, Moorabbin ground, taxi only point Alpha 8, runway 35 left.
Taxi to Alpha 8, 35 left, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot. Moorabbin Tower, good afternoon. Cirrus, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot is at Alpha 8, ready for a departure to the south.
Sierra Foxtrot, Tower, good day, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot.
Ready, let's go. Power's up.
Full power. Temps and pressures are in the green.
Temps and pressures in the green.
Okay, we've got airspeeds alive on both. And looking for spinning knots. There we are.
Yep. We are airborne.
Kilo Lima, clear to land. Clear to land.
This thing just goes.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're already 90 knots, so we need to get flaps up.
Ups up.
Yep.
Ups up. Flaps are up on the right.
Excellent. So, yep.
Delta pilot say a little bit of light chop.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. So, good as it's 500 feet, caps is available. Well,
We're on caps.
Yep. So, we'll start our turn.
Yep.
No one here. Okay, so still need a lot of right rudder because it's full power, but we're coming up to 50 feet now.
Yes.
So we'll go head out to just near the water, and then we'll sort of loosely follow the coast down.
Receive.
200 to go.
100 to go.
And
Okay. 20 feet.
75% power. That'll do.
Yep. Power set.
Good. It's a bit scary actually. The traffic, especially when it's zoomed out like that. Yeah.
I've got my eyes open, so.
Good. Good.
Any.
Don't be afraid to point them out if you see them.
Will do. As we've approached Mornington rapidly.
I think X-ray, there is one VFR.
Been doing 150 knots over the ground.
3 o'clock at 1,500,
That's absolutely
pointing
hammering.
towards you.
How wild is that?
There's my house right there.
Yeah? You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Right down there. That roof. So that's it.
So I'll click and get a feel for the aircraft. Let's slow it down a bit.
Give us time.
We don't need to be blasting it. Boost pumps on, fuel, brakes, undercarriage is down and want. Mixture, full forward, masters both on, mags, alternators are on, lights are on, hatches, harnesses connected.
Yep.
Okay, so we're coming up to Bravo Tower. Good afternoon. Cirrus, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot, in receipt of Romeo, Karen, 1500 inbound.
Sierra Foxtrot, target A, join downwind, runway 17 right.
Downwind 17 right, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot. So we're looking for 45 degrees. Could be about now, so good base.
Tower, Tango for X-ray Warrior.
One on final now.
Romeo, inbound. Tango for X-ray Tower, join downwind, runway 17 right. 17 right, Tango for X-ray.
Full flaps.
Bravo Tower, Echo Whiskey Zulu is approaching.
Flaps.
Sierra Foxtrot, clear to land.
Clear to land, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot. Roman ground, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot is at Alpha 5, request taxi to the apron.
Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot, taxi.
Taxi to the apron, Foxtrot, Sierra Foxtrot.
That is sensational.
Yeah, how amazing is it to be able to do this? Yeah, I have to pinch myself.
What an incredible
Awesome.
thing,
That is
isn't it?
so cool.
Yes, great, wasn't it? Really, really good, and very entertaining as well. The guys are just their enthusiasm for it all is just so infectious.
I think that one of the best guys, Auntie Liz said, they're just having an amazing time, aren't they? That's the best thing. Yeah, two mates up in what sounds like a beautiful aeroplane.
Oh yeah, it is.
It sounds like a beautiful bit of kit.
Yeah.
It's no, I really enjoyed that, guys. Thank you so very much for sharing.
Thank you.
that.
Yes,
we were actually saying we need to have them on as guests very shortly. Actually, 'cause
We do,
haven't had
yeah.
Matt or Evan on for a long
We do.
time, so we need to
Yeah.
put that right. I think, but yeah, no, thanks for sharing your day with us. Actually, while we're talking aviation related, general aviation, I went up in a Piper 28. Is that right? Is it a Piper 28? Yeah. Get me. A Piper 28 last Saturday with a certain
Did you?
excellent pilot, and I might have even held the controls for a little while.
I can confirm he did. I mean, I wasn't there, but I've obviously seen the video playback that you got, Matt. And
Indeed.
Matt did fly the aircraft in question. He was in control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Armando's actually in the chat room as well
He
at the
is,
moment.
yeah.
He can confirm that Matt was PIC.
Pardon?
Pilot in command.
Oh no! Well, no, that's completely not true. And the reason why it's completely not true is because all I was doing was holding the that thing, whatever that is, the steering
joystick.
wheel, whatever that is, and I didn't go anywhere near the rudder or the pedals or anything like that. So, but it was an incredible experience, and hopefully that's going to be going out on next week's show. That's the plan. We've got a little bit to play out from that. I'm having a hard job editing it down to a manageable bite-size
I'm
piece,
sure you'll be all
right. But yeah, so hopefully that's going to go out on next week's show. But you, in fact, are going to see Armando tomorrow.
Yes, I am incredibly lucky indeed. Armando and me are going to be having a little flight tomorrow morning in the PA-28. We don't know where we're going yet. I don't know whether Armando's decided where we're going to fly to. Could be Spain, France. We don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
But no, we're going to have a little flight tomorrow, and hoping to try out a new camera that I've just brought in the cockpit as well. And obviously, Armando will have a camera there as well. And we're hoping to put together a nice little bit of content for the show with the flight and stuff. Because I've only got myself probably about an hour's worth of flying in a PA-28, so it's all kind of new stuff to me. I'm used to the good old 150 and 172, but we'll see how we get on anyway. But looking forward to that.
Poor Nev is a bit left out on this one, really, isn't he? Yeah.
No, I was just impressed. Well, certainly the video that I've seen so far of you and Armando, Matt, it was absolutely superb, and actually the video quality was really good.
Yeah, he's got himself. Actually, I'll give him credit where credit's due. He's got himself a nice little setup there, actually, and recording the audio and stuff. It was nice to be able to sort of hear the sort of record, the chat that we were having. Very much like what Matt and Evan have done. It's a similar sort of setup, really. But anyway, that's enough of that. We'll be coming back to that in the weeks to come.
Looking forward to it, Matt. So, next up on the show, then, we have got a little bit of some military news to come. And then later on in the show, we have, of course, got that little bit of audio that Nev had with Tony S., which is really good as well. So that's coming up after the military. So if everyone is ready for some grey stuff.
I'm ready. Are you ready, Nev?
Yeah, let's go grey.
So the first news story on the military segment this week is on flightglobal.com's website, and I must say I'm always a great believer in recycling things. I hate to bin stuff. It's nothing worse than getting rid of stuff that is good for other purposes.
Perfectly serviceable. Yeah.
And this particular story follows on from that. So Bahrain receives ex-Royal Air Force Hercules. So Bahrain has taken delivery of its first two ex-UK Royal Air Force Lockheed Martin C-130J tactical transports. Acquired via the UK Ministry of Defence following its retirement from service, the aircraft underwent depth maintenance at Marshall's Aerospace, which is based at Cambridge here in the UK, and Defence Group, which is an awesome place to visit. If you're in the UK, Marshall's is a huge site at Cambridge, and it's a great place for plane spotting, just to put that out there. So Flights Fleet's analyser shows that the aircraft, which now carry the Royal Bahrain Air Force registration 702, the aircraft in question is 19 years old. Marshall said the work also included some minor modifications and a full aircraft repaint. The UK company is also responsible for providing Manama with elements of an initial operational capability setup to support the type's introduction. Bahrain's acquisition of the surplus Royal Air Force aircraft plugs a previous capability gap, as it was the only Gulf Cooperation Council nation with no tactical airlift assets. Its first Hercules is expected to make a debut appearance at the Bahrain Air Show, running from the 14th to the 16th of this month. Delivery of this aircraft sees the first government-to-government transfer of a C-130J, and the Kingdom of Bahrain enter the C-130 community as a new operator, says Matthew Harvey, Marshall Aerospace Defence Group's International Sales Director of Military Aerospace. The UK MOD opted to retire the Royal Air Force short fuselage C-130Js while retaining its stretched examples. It also has sold 2 examples to Bangladesh, while another is to provide logistics support to the US Navy's Blue Angels aerobatic display team. Now, it's good to see, obviously, these aircraft are incredibly well-proven aircraft, the Hercules. It's, I'm not a big military person, as you all know, but I do love the Hercules. And obviously, when you go to Riyadh, if you get the chance to go to the Royal International Air Tattoo here in the UK every year, the various air forces that take part in the air show, I think nearly all of them have one of their Hercules on display there, and it's always good to see these proven beasts in the sky. So, Matt, moving on to the next story, and again, this one is on Flight Global.
Yeah, indeed, it's on Flight Global, as Carlos says, and the headline is UK confirms new deal for 17 F-35Bs. So the UK Ministry of Defence has ordered its next 17 Lockheed Martin F-35Bs as part of a 255-unit multinational framework agreement announced by the US Department of Defence, confirming the development on the 15th of November, the MOD said the 17 new F-35B aircrafts will be delivered between 2020 and 2022. This corresponds with the program's 12th through 14th lots of low-rate initial production. The Department of Defense had the previous day announced that the F-35 program partners and foreign military sales buyers would take a combined 149 aircraft under an definitized contract. I'm not even sure what that word means.
That's a big word for a Friday night.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. In a said contract action deal with Lockheed, along with 106 for the US Armed Services. It said the international offtake would include 18 of the short takeoff and vertical landing B model, in addition to the UK and the US Marine Corps. Only Italy has so far confirmed purchases of this variant. A total of 16 F-35Bs have so far been delivered to the UK for use with the Royal Air Force's 617 Squadron at Marham in Norfolk. And during test activities being performed in the USA, 2 other aircraft have yet to be handed over from previous commitments, meaning the total orders for the UK now stands at 35 units. The nation maintains a total commitment to acquiring 138 F-35s over the life of the programme.
It's good to see we're spending some money anyway in the UK.
Yeah, I didn't realise we had any, Nev.
I know.
Well, it's about time we did, frankly, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you know what, with all this Brexit excitement going off, I'm amazed we have any at all. Indeed.
So, Nev, the next one.
Yeah, this is on the Air Force Technology website. And it's about the very popular T-38 trainer aircraft. That's one of these has crashed at Laughlin Air Force Base. And the Air Force Base, which operates this aircraft, this is in southern Texas. And the accident at the aircraft's home base sadly resulted in the death of one pilot, whilst the other crew member has been injured and sent for treatment to the local regional hospital in Texas. The names of the 2 crew members have not yet been disclosed, but whilst the emergency responders of the Laughlin Air Force Base are assigned to the location of the accident, the board of officers will convene to investigate the crash and identify what caused the accident. Additional details of the accident will be provided as and when the information becomes available, the US Air Force said in a statement. The accident is reportedly the 5th crash involving the Talon trainer aircraft in the past year. In September of this year, a T-6A Texan II military trainer aircraft deployed with the US Air Force 12th Flying Training Wing was involved in an accident near Rolling Oaks Mall in San Antonio in Texas. Last year, a T-38 was reported to have crashed a few miles from the Texas base, killing a pilot instructor, reported the Air Force Times. The T-38 Talon is built by Northrop Grumman. It's a 14-metre-long, twin-engine, high-altitude supersonic jet trainer that can be deployed to carry out a wide range of roles. This has previously been a very reliable aircraft and has had a good in-service history, but they've had some problems recently by the sound of things, and a very, very sad ending to this one.
Yeah, the T-38 Talon advanced trainer was first flew actually in 1959 on the 10th of April, introduced into service 1961. Primary users being the US Air Force, United States Navy, NASA and the Turkish Air Force as well. There's been just over 1,000 of these built, and if you want to go and grab yourself one of these down the local Talon T-38 shop, it'll probably set you around about $6.17 million for one of these, which is not bad. 6 million, is it, for
cheap at half the price? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're just gonna break off from the military actually for a moment. I think it's was it Richard? I think it was Richard King. Yeah, it's just emailed the show actually while we've been on
Mr.
air,
King, thank you.
With actually a drone story that he's literally just found. So I'm going to break.
Got a drone on, is he?
Yeah, stop it. Anyway, so this is the SUAS News. the business of drones anyway. So it says the UK DJI Phantom Flyer fine forfeit first. So the National Police Air Service, the MPAS, and CAA in the east of England have successfully prosecuted a case against a drone flyer flying Bravo Victor Lima Oscar Sierra. So Sergei Moan flew his DJI Phantom 4 more than half a mile to go and have a look. He flew it more than half a mile to go and have a look at a police helicopter searching for a missing person. He flew directly underneath the police helicopter. At first, the helicopter crew thought the drone might be being operated by the fire service, but quickly realised that it was not the case.
Oops.
They broke off their search and followed the drone to watch the 37-year-old landing it in his back garden. Officers on the ground were made aware of the location of the landed drone. It is alleged that Moan, who told the first officers on the scene that he did not own a drone, but a police sergeant arrived, arrested him, and on searching the property, the Phantom was found hidden in a loft space above the bathroom. So here's the official take. It says the National Police Air Service, the MPAS, and the UK Civil Aviation Authority welcome the successful prosecution of a drone user who was found guilty in Peterborough Magistrates Court. The case sends a clear message to drone users that unsafe flying is totally unacceptable, and that if you break the laws covering drone flying, you could go to prison for up to 5 years. Mr. Moan was found guilty on 2 charges, fined £184 with £280 court costs, and forced to forfeit his drone, which is interesting. So
I wonder whether they confiscated it off him, because they're not the cheapest things to buy, these DJIs.
No, indeed. The DJIs are supposed to be pretty good ones.
They're very good,
yeah,
they're very good.
Yeah.
But,
and in sensible hands, of course. They are amazing bits of kit.
Sam, have you seen the fine? I mean, £184.
It's not enough, is it, really?
With £280 court costs?
Yeah.
Well, I could do more than that by driving my car too fast on the M40.
That's a Ryanair baggage fee.
Quite. Or to print off your boarding pass.
Well, there is that. Yes, that could well be the case.
I mean, these fines are just completely inadequate. They have got to be, they have to send a message, don't they? Surely.
Yeah, and they've not done that, essentially, have they, really? Let's be honest. Anyway, sorry to interrupt there, but no, thank you for sending that in, Richard. Obviously, do please do that. Do please send in your stories if you get them, especially while we're on air, and then we can include them sort of straight away. Yeah.
Could I just say that I'm not really up on drones, and I used to think that a DJI Phantom was some sort of chap at a gig or something like that.
Yeah, something that Carlos would do. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Much love to you all as well.
Yeah, indeed. So, actually, I've just found the video that the police took of it. So let's see if we can. There you just see.
There it is.
You can just see the little drone underneath where it had been duly spotted. I think it's safe to say that he's going to have regretted it. But to fly it more than half, I mean, a small part of me is impressed that he was able to fly it nearly half a mile away from his home and still have excellent range. I mean, that's really quite impressive. Let's be honest.
So we are going to finish that military segment in for this week, but we have got a little piece of audio. Nev, what is this all about?
Well, I don't get a chance very often to go up to the northeast of England, but this week I managed to do so on some business stuff, and I thought, I know who lives in the northeast of England, Tony S. And so I gave him a quick call and see if he was around, and we had a very nice lunch together. Actually, we had a good old chat. So just a very short clip because I didn't want to disturb him too much, but it was nice to have a chat with him and get a bit of feedback from him as well. Well, hi everybody, it's Nev here, and for a nice change, I'm up in the northeast of England, which is in Darlington. I'm at the Tapas Bar near the centre of Darlington, and who should I bump into but Tony S. And we just had a very nice bit of lunch here. How are you, Tony?
I'm very well, thank you, Neville. It's lovely to meet you again. It's been a while since we met last. I think it might have been Duxford last year when we met, so it's nice to meet up again and have a chat about aviation.
Yeah, brilliant. That's the nice thing about these sort of things, isn't it? We just have a good old chat about stuff and photographic gear and video gear. And have you bought any more photo gear since I last saw you?
I'm trying not to, because it's very addictive for photography. You can spend an absolute fortune, so I'm trying to rein me spending in a little bit and just try and get the best out of the equipment I've already got.
Brilliant. So, what's the plan for next year? Did you say you were off to Riyadh?
Yes, I'm going to the Riyadh Air Show again, which is it's a go-to air show for me. I think I'll just go every year as long as it's on, basically. I think it's the best air show. I know people say about Oshkosh and places, but it's the highlight of the year for me, going to Riyadh.
Brilliant. And we're just talking about your local airport here, Teesside. What sort of operations are there from there these days?
Well, rather disappointingly, not a lot. We have KLM connections to Schiphol 3 times a day, which I suppose is a good hub. It's a gateway to the world, really, isn't it? So if you don't mind paying a KLM premium, it's a good connection. But there's a few flights to Aberdeen to support the local oil industry and things like that. But no, it's generally a fairly quiet airport, unfortunately. I'd like to see a lot more.
Yeah, it's a pity, isn't it? Because those regional airports are really important. Well, as always, Tony, brilliant to see you again. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Neville. It's lovely to meet you again.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
thevoicesinyourhead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself, and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23-hour Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2TME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/TME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
So we came up with the idea of having a video course.
Obviously ours are better because we've got the experience on the aircraft and we know what we need to be looking at.
Something that myself and Andy started initially really to improve our own technical knowledge and put something out there. We saw that there was a gap and this wasn't a media that was being used for this purpose, and our hunch was right because there's obviously a market for it.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com, or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
It's always good to hear from Tony.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Everyone agrees in the chat room that Tony's got an awesome accent.
Absolutely. Much better than our posh toffee nose. What we do is, that's what we call a proper regional accent.
Proper regional
yeah,
accent, yeah.
Love
Very
it.
true.
Indeed. Now, Carlos, you've been sending me emails of random pictures of stuff.
Yeah.
So I want you to explain, please, before I feel like I'm going to get arrested or something.
So earlier on today, I had a little visit round to my cousin. And,
now, this is the cousin that normally lives in Australia.
She does,
but
yeah.
she's
normally
here
lives in Australia.
She's at home at the
but she's
moment,
living in the UK at the moment.
Yeah.
But went and saw my cousin and my two little cousins, Oscar and Felix, and love to see the two boys because they are awesome little lads. And it's safe to say that it's. I mean, Felix is a lot younger, but Oscar has got the awesome aviation bug, just like me, like Carlos, right. You know. And I've just got a little picture here that Matt's going to put on the screen for those of you guys watching in YouTube. And you can probably see the aircraft here that little Oscar's holding there. And obviously it's an awesome airline that we all know and love here in the UK.
Absolutely, yeah, the orange one.
I'm not quite sure about the actual model of aircraft because it's a scare bus, but you know,
obviously it's going to be the A320 or the A321, isn't it?
It's probably the A320. Yes, the A320.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But it was awesome to see. And I tell you what, guys, he really does love his aircraft.
Yeah, I bet your cousin is horrified.
No, actually, Vicky doesn't mind. Bless her. She doesn't mind. I think, you know, she's well aware that all the presents that the boys will get this Christmas will all be of an aviation theme.
Related. Well, it's better than trains, I suppose.
It's got to be better than trains, yeah, or motorbikes, because we don't like those either. We don't like those either. But no, it's great to see the boys, and like I said, he does love his aircraft. And
Jonathan Warner says, "Oh, poor boy, having to play with a scare bus." Right?
Oh, okay. I know, but no, it's. I know Vicky's watching now. She's watching the show, so hello to you, cuz. Hope you're okay, and I expect the boys are safely tucked up in bed. And I should imagine that Oscar's probably dreaming about being a pilot.
Well, of course, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to start to wrap up the show then for this week. A big thanks again to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. All the usual family members in there across the globe watching tonight's show, and also a big thanks to everyone who also downloads the audio show as well via iTunes and Stitcher and Podbean and all the amazing places what Matt uploads the show to each week.
Neil Landwan says, my missus is complaining. Apparently 4 days after the holiday is too long to have not unpacked.
Oh, okay.
I think somebody's in trouble there.
Just a little bit, yes.
Absolutely.
But if you want to send us some feedback to the show, just like Matthew Bunting, Frame, Evan, and obviously everyone else has done, where can they send the feedback to, Matt?
You can do it any way you like, really. You can send it to us on via Facebook, if you wish, or you can tweet it to us if you will record it within the messaging functions of those software. We can really extract it from them. Or the easiest way to do it, to give me less of a headache, is to send it to podcast@planetalkinguk.com. That's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. You can use that for written feedback as well, which we'll read out on the show if you ask us to. So, you can get in contact by that. To find us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/planetalkinguk. Our Twitter handle is @planetalkinguk. Our Instagram is @planetalkinguk. And, the website, www.planetalkinguk.com.
So, Nev, what do you got planned for this weekend? Any exciting things?
I think after his day today, I'll lie down in a darkened room, I think. Yeah.
I'm a bit worn out after today. However, I interviewed, I didn't interview, Captain Nick interviewed Sir Richard Johns today, and Nick reviewed his autobiography, which is called Bolt from the Blue, From Cold War Warrior to Chief of Air Staff. And we'll be offering this as a prize because Sir Richard very kindly signed the book for us today.
So our Christmas competition, we've got some great prizes actually lined up for this year.
I've already got the idea what I'm going to do for the competition.
Right,
so
brace yourselves.
Stay tuned, everyone. Yeah.
But some great prizes.
There'll be a lot of editing of the interview that we did, and I think we've got enough material to put over several weeks, to be honest with you. But
we've got
he's an absolutely fascinating gentleman.
We think we've got a nice little 6-part series, don't we?
I think so, yes.
Absolutely.
And, I'm absolutely delighted that we had the opportunity of interviewing Sir Richard, and Nick, of course, did an absolutely superb job.
And of course, our personal thanks to Captain Nick, who, whilst being one of the busiest podcasting people in the entire world, as well as doing a full-time job, of course, is very generous with his time on our show, and we are eternally grateful grateful to him for all the help.
Also,
he
we've
gives us.
just had the clearance to use my Gibraltar interview I did a couple of weeks ago. So we may well be playing that on next week's show as well.
Indeed. I think at this rate, next week, we're not going to talk at all. There's going to be no stories. We've just got videos to play out because our lives are that exciting, everyone. Yes.
So, Matt, what have you got planned this weekend? Anything exciting?
This weekend will be mostly spent doing pretty much naff all, I've got to be honest.
Are you going to be playing possibly with the new
yes,
tower?
Yes,
for the,
I've actually got a completely clear, an unexpected free weekend. So I have a computer from work that I need to urgently repair, and then the next job is to retire the laptop, as we were talking about
poor
before.
laptop.
Poor laptop has worked very hard. So so work in the studio basically, and you want a tablecloth in here, don't you?
Yes, I'm getting a cloth.
He doesn't like having no tablecloth here. It's a plastic table. What do you expect?
Through little modifications, that'll be fine.
But
yes,
I'm printing off some because I've got some photo paper, so I'm going to print off some of those pictures.
Yeah, I've got some photo paper. I'm going to go do some ones as well, which Mr. Warner sent in. So
Indeed.
Don't forget, for those of you listening as well, again, if you want to get some photos, send them to us, email them to us. We'll get them on the wall behind us here. We want to see this. We don't want to see the wall. We want to see your photos.
We want to just see your photos. Yeah, so email them across. We'll print them off here. Don't worry about having to get them printed and posted. Just email them to us as high a resolution as you can. We'll print them off and put them up on the wall here.
Yeah,
I do feel we need to. Mind you, I suppose BA is being represented in the NevTech studio, isn't it? So I suppose we don't really need. We do need. We've got a nice picture.
That nice A380 behind me with my children.
I think the big question, Nev, is obviously on everyone's breath is: have you worn the Concorde socks yet?
Well, actually, I was going to do that tomorrow, just to give them a bit of an outing. So
I like how he had them to
hand.
A small part of his
they're rather sweet, don't you?
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you think so.
Excellent. So don't forget then, guys and girls, to join us again next week for the show episode 234. That'll be next week. 244. 244.
We're on 243 now,
244. And also, don't forget to look out for the Christmas competition. We're probably going to announce that within the next couple of weeks, towards the end of November, beginning of December, to give you all a chance to enter that. And that should be quite an interesting lot.
But as soon as we finish the show, we're going to have a crisis conversation about Christmas and what we're going to do.
Yes, what we're going to do.
Because we do desperately need to get some plans in. So hopefully we'll have some stuff to share with you next week about what's coming up with our various Christmas episodes and things. So
thanks again to everyone who's joined us this week. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing in the world. Stay safe, fly safe. And and have a great weekend, everyone. So from me, Carlos, here in the PTUK studios, goodbye.
Nev,
have a good weekend, everybody. Take care.
And from me here in the studio as well, it's time to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Bye. Urge to read out your last comment in the chat room.